welcome to Final Whistle Weekly. And let's be honest, this season was all about the Bristol Street Motors Trophy, really, anyway, wasn't it? Don't worry about that other knockout thing. We got a big guest today, somewhat topically. We have a guest who served two non-consecutive terms for Wrexham, but he's never attempted to mount a coup to topple American democracy. He's not been impeached twice, and he hasn't been convicted of 17 counts of criminal tax fraud, conspiracy, and falsifying business records over a period of 15 years. As far as we know, Kevin Russell will be joining us later on. But firstly, hello, everyone. Hello, Bill.
Hello.
Hello. I
Hello.
waved the wrong arm then. There's opposite arms to you two. Have I or it looks like on my end?
Well, I like firstly that Andy jumped in and said hello when I said hello to Bill. That was good. Enthusiasm. That's what we want. And
Yeah.
also, Bill, because of your background, video viewers will have seen you apparently waving a sort of severed cadaver's arm or something. It was a very peculiar sight. Have we had a good week, notwithstanding the football?
Yeah.
Hasn't been bad. Hasn't been bad. But
Good, good. Well, we can cheer up by talking about the women's team who were brilliant on Sunday. We'll talk about the Harrogate game as well. And then Rooster will come along and make everything better again. So, hello, everyone. This is Final Whistle Weekly. Harrogate, your thoughts?
Um. the-
I was just trying to do a classic post-match interview thing where you say, well, Phil, result, what are your thoughts?
we had the chances, didn't we?
We certainly
We
did.
had chance after chance. It was just what summed it up for me was the Mullen chance where he came to, I think he went for his left and his right, and then he put it so wide of the post. It was incredible. Um, it's just the way it went. We had the chances to win. Harrogate got that one goal. Fair play to them. And that's the way it goes sometimes in football. We didn't want to win the FA Cup anyway.
Nah, exactly. Not now we're looking to qualify for Europe in other methods.
Mm.
I don't know, Bill. I think Andy hit the nail on the head there. Fair play to Harrogate. They defended well. They only had one shot on goal, on target rather, but they scored it. And fair play to them.
Yeah, I think maybe the one positive that we can take from this, maybe not the one positive. There's a few things that we'll get into as we talk about it, but um, I think it means that all Wrexham fans have had like a football and education. That there's more than one way to win a game because I didn't see many people complaining about the way Harrogate played because the amount of times we've done that to other teams, especially higher up opposition, snatch a goal and sort of defend for your lives. It's actually pretty commendable and fair play to him. I'm annoyed because we never seem to do well against them, but all credit to their players and their coaching staff. They did the number on us like we've turned around and said about a lot of other clubs in the past. So you've just got to lick your wounds and move on, haven't you, Andy?
Yeah, I think so. Perhaps I'd like to, when you know it's not going for us, we went for, Parkinson works with getting it out wide and swapping it from side to side. And it's really good to watch. But if it isn't quite working, why don't you go down the centre or just do something different? And it might have caught Harrogate out because they got their back line back on the 6 yard box and just headed everything out as far as I could see. Um, I look back at the goal, I was a bit disappointed as well. He got to the ball first. There wasn't somebody jumping in front of him. In days of I've done coaching and things like that, you want people jumping front and back with the big guys, and he got a clean strike on it with his head. So I think they'll be looking at that on the training pitch and saying, just how did he get so much time to get his head on it?
Yeah, but you're letting some poor goals from corners at the start of the season and then seem to have really ironed that out. But it looked to me like he was Revan's man and he just got a start on him. And Revan's like chasing after him, trying to grab his shirt and just can't quite get tight enough to mark him as he would want to, doesn't he? But I'm going to take issue with you, Bill, on one small thing of what you said. I would argue that both Harrogate on Sunday and Wrexham in games like, well, Shrewsbury last season, I don't know if it's so much defending for your lives as defending really well. if you see what I mean. I mean, if the ball's coming in around
Right,
the
yeah,
six-yard box, pretty
yeah,
much their centre backs were winning everything, as indeed we have done when we've sat back on our defensive block. So I know that's what you meant, but I just thought it'd be a smart aleck and
yeah.
jump in. And you forget to mention one big positive coming out of that defeat is that we'll all now get a free Saturday to do some shopping just before Christmas. And that's what football's all about, really, isn't it?
Mm.
Oh, my missus is buzzing because it's the day before her birthday. So, if we'd have had a plum draw against somebody, I might not have been around. So, not that she knows that, but yeah. No,
Happy
And I
days.
it's
would, and I would say that Mrs. Griffiths has been detailed by Dr. Guy to arrange a meeting before Christmas. So you never know, that Saturday might come in useful.
There you go. Dr. Guy is Andy's better half, by the way. Just so you know, in case he's thinking he's come up with some Victorian literary character. I don't
You
know.
might get to see the godchildren before Christmas, but other than that, yes, it would
We
be
could get
better if there
complaints
was
if
a
we start
football
sorting our
match.
social diary live here, Andy. You realise that?
No,
What are you up to on Saturday morning, Bill? Fancy a coffee?
There's a game Saturday morning, Mark.
Oh, is there?
there's a game.
Oh, of course,
Yeah.
yes. Well,
Yeah,
12:30. But I
yeah.
quibbled with you once. I'm not going to do it again.
So technically, it's not Monday, but Monday? It's definitely not Monday. It's not the morning. Oh, this Harrogate game's done my head in.
Yeah,
I
and
I
don't
was
give me
so
that
fro I
technically stuff.
was
It's either more. It's a yes no question. Is it the morning? No. Never mind. Technically, well, I've been so sarky. I've frozen the connection.
well, it is technically the anyway.
What do we feel about 12:30 kickoffs?
Um, Sky have
12:30
given us so much
kickoffs.
money, we don't
It's
mind.
it's a weird one for me, Andy, because I'm well, yeah, there's that.
There's
For
that.
for for me personally, the 3 o'clock kickoff is like I can be with the lad all day and then sort of go just before kickoff, so it doesn't really suit me massively because I'm gone for a chunk of a whole day now. But I think if I was a single and didn't have commitments, nice early start. If you lose, you've got the rest of the afternoon to yourself, haven't you? But if you win, you've got the rest of the afternoon for the pleasantries afterwards. So I wouldn't be totally against it if I didn't have family commitments.
I, that's my feeling. It's a big chunk of the day out in the middle of the day, but I also agree with Mark's point, really, that ultimately it comes down to money, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to have to get used to this now. I mean, I was thinking this before Sunday. I couldn't think about it after Sunday because it was about us going through latter stages of the FA Cup. Now you've got this setup where they're streaming multiple games on the Sunday. I think it'll be a while before we play at least a first or second round FA Cup match on the Saturday at 3 o'clock. Because if you've got a choice of a few ties, they're always going to throw us in because they're always going to be guaranteed good figures.
Mm.
Oh well. And on that bombshell,
Yeah.
I have to say I find it's a bit weird when you evaluate the Harrogate game because yeah, it's hugely disappointing. We've lost to a team from a lower division, although like I said they played well. We've lost to a team that are struggling to score goals massively. You sort of, with our defensive record, you sort of think, well, the one thing you'd probably put money on is they won't score. And yet, as it's a dominant performance by us, I thought this will still were some good performances. I mean, for me, Barnett put a hell of a lot of decent stuff in the box and deserved to have people getting on the end of it more than they did. Although he did manage to pick quite a few players out with chances on goal.
Mhm. Yeah. And in other games, what does Parkinson do? Does he bring them all into the changing room and give them a big telling off? Or does he say you created sort of 10 or 11 chances? It could have been 5-6-1 to us on another day.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think
Mm.
I think Parkinson did all of the right things, really. Didn't he? Brought Elliot Lee on so that I know you mentioned earlier, Andy, and I think you're right about going a bit more central. when we were relying on the wings, but he's brought a player who quite often has created things for us in the middle, and they didn't really utilize him because they obviously felt there was going to be some success from the wings. That just felt to me like the players had decided, no, it's gonna crack eventually, and it just didn't for him. Tactically, you can't. Parkinson's done that, and 9 times out of 10 he succeeds when he makes those kind of substitutions, and we've got that kind of pressure on us. So it's I find it people will criticize him because that's just the way football fans are, but I struggle to find too much fault with him and just sort of see it as players just had a bit of an off day in the only part that matters in scoring goals.
Yeah. I think as well, Harrogate had a nice approach in that, playing the 4-4-2, they were doubling up on Barnett, particularly, and sort of trying to stop the crosses coming in. Not that that worked necessarily, but it did restrict his opportunity to run riot. And then the other side of that is that when we played diagonals and went wide, their centre mids, one goes across to help out. And there were often, especially in the first half, times when there was a hell of a big gap between the two central midfielders, and you felt, right, okay, going wide's a precursor to create that space through the middle because we got a man over to drive through the middle. That's what Barnett did, if you remember, in the second half when suddenly it was 3-on-1 and Dobson's chance was saved. The trouble is that when we're going through the middle in the second half, they really have a lead to cling on to then. They go into sort of deep block mode.
Mm.
And around the D is so crowded then, isn't it? It's really hard to chisel your way through.
And you look at Palmer's header's chance as well that he had. I think he was halfway through the first half before they scored. That should have gone in as well. And he just didn't get a hold of it. The keeper went down to I think, to the left and held on. It was quite an easy save, but really it was, a golden opportunity for me.
I got to say, I thought Palmer, I was surprised we brought him off so soon because although you're right, he missed a couple of chances, but he was winning a lot of headers against them and making the ball stick, wasn't he? I was a little surprised at that. Although I enjoyed seeing Budvarsson getting a decent run on the pitch. And I don't know, what did you think? I liked the early signs from him.
He looks a good all-round player. Difficult game to bring him into,
Yeah.
really. You really want to give him 15 minutes when the game is all won. We're winning 3-0 and we're totally on top to see what he can get in that sort of game. It's difficult because he may actually come up with the absolute winner, but he might just fade out a bit because he's new to it. He's still learning what's going on. So, yeah, difficult choice of game to start him, I think. To bring him on into.
And Bill, he nearly got that goal, didn't he? He had that lovely scissors volley, but the keeper made a good save from him. And he's got the pedigree, hasn't he?
Yeah, and like we sort of mentioned last week, a lot of the Bolton fans I saw online said he looked like one of their better players. It's just that he didn't really fit their style of play, and that he should fit Parkinson's style of play a bit more. And that kind of, it's very early days, but that kind of shows, doesn't it? And you'd have been thinking he'd be having the odd 15-minute cameo, or maybe, like you say, Andy, the game's won and he comes on a bit sooner against Harrogate, and that his first start would be against Port Vale next week. But so sometimes needs must, and you've just got to throw the players on, haven't you?
Mm.
Yeah, very true.
Ultimately, Harrogate is one of those moments where we got to say, we've just got to let it go and move on. And ultimately, I suspect every Wrexham fan would love another promotion. I think that's asking a lot right now, but that's what we want. And do we really want a cup run where Mullen gets injured or Lee gets injured away at somebody else? We want to keep our best players fit and with less games, I would argue.
Well, like you
I'd
said,
say the ideal scenario, really, isn't it, that the B team win the Bristol Street Motors trophy for us, and that the A team go and get promotion. So
oh,
yeah, having an FA Cup or a Carling Cup, or sorry, Carabao Cup run doesn't quite fit into that. But I think you can get away with playing the fringe team a bit more in the Bristol Street Motors, can't you?
I'm dreaming of the Bristol Street Motors, just like the ones we used to know. Sorry, I got a bit carried away. Sorry. Andy's
We saw
right. We should move on from that game and instead randomly talk about games there where we've dominated and aren't able to score. I don't know where that thought's come from. Actually, it's come from you guys before we started doing the show. Um, do any games stand out for you as classic sort of why aren't we winning 6-0 matches and then suddenly we get caught on the hop? That feels like an old Wrexham thing to do. I can get the ball rolling with Uncle
Go
Griff's bedtime stories.
on.
Um, I remember the first game of the season. I think it was like 96, something around then, and we went to Fulham, maybe slightly earlier. Oh, it was just so frustrating. We went to Fulham, and you're thinking, "Oh, this is tough. This boiling hot summer's day." Um, it was made memorable before that. Well, at half time, because if you remember, well, a certain person who owned Fulham, who now has a different public image to what he had at the time, shall we say, used to bring on celebrity guests at half time. And he brought on, oh, what was his name? The Irish middleweight, super middleweight, Mike Collins, Steve Collins.
Yeah, it was definitely Collins, wasn't it? I can't remember his
Yeah.
first name.
And he came out at half time and essentially, so generally this didn't happen. Generally, when Michael Jackson, there's another person we may have to reevaluate. Um, when he comes out at halftime, I don't think he sort of haven't had a pop at the Exeter fans or whoever in the away end. But Collins asked all the Wrexham fans out for a fight, which I thought was kind of a little bit. You don't actually support Fulham, mate. Why are you doing that? He's there with a microphone. I take the lot of yous, and it was like, what? But anyway, that game sticks in my mind because we just could not score. It was crazy, and of course we let a goal in there. We just kept the ball, really nice passing football like that Flynn team played. I think, oh, you know what? I think it was the transition because we sold Gary Bennett, and he scored quite a lot of goals, of course.
Mm.
And we used to play 4-4-2 then with Watkins supporting him and Connolly on the wing. And the start of the next season, we struggled for goals for about 6-7 weeks. And then uh, Flynn switched it to that lopsided 4-3-3 with Connolly on the left wing and nobody on the right wing, something which Kevin Russell was a key part of once he arrived. And suddenly the goals came. I remember very clear that the first game we did that was against Swindon at home. Swindon were top of the league, and we beat them 4-3. Connolly hat trick, if I recall correctly. And yeah, Connolly playing in attack, whereas he'd always played on the wing for us. But yeah, this was before that, where we played lovely football and just could not score and then lost 1-0. And I don't know, Andy, is it just me looking back inaccurately? It felt like we used to have quite a lot of games like that. That was why we just miss out in the playoffs. Games where we
Yeah.
looked great, but ended up 1-0 again
Flynn
or
had a
0-0.
very nice style of football and it looked very nice, but sometimes it just lacked that final crunch to get the goals.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was that time.
Except for the. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, it's a long time ago now as well. But one game that comes to mind as well, I was thinking of the Tranmere game last season. I thought we were on top, and then they stole one very
Oh
late on.
God, yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
I'll give you
The less said
nightmares.
about that game, the better. That and funnily enough, we played Harrogate. Was it the week after that? And it was or
Yeah.
it was around that period.
It was,
It was 0-0, wasn't it? But
yeah.
yeah, another one that was just a difficult one to score a goal in.
That was
Am
Um,
Tuesday,
I right in
Saturday, that was.
thinking? Am I right in
was
thinking
yeah,
Harrogate have knocked us out the cup twice now?
Yes.
yeah.
They knocked us out of the first Parkinson's first season. But then they were
Mm,
in a higher division than us.
mm.
And they've knocked us out the FA Trophy as well. We've never lost them in a league, but they've knocked us out of three different cup competitions. Grrr. And we've
Girl,
knocked
yeah.
them out of the cup as well. We played them a lot. We knocked them
Mm.
out when Akil Wright scored in a replay. So yeah, we constantly draw them in the cups. I think it's 4 times in 7 seasons we've drawn them in the cups now. So let's stop that habit by getting
Mm.
into the championship, and then Harrogate will have to make their way all the way up to the third round, and hopefully that will cut down the opportunities of that happening. My other tragic, dominating but letting in goals story, I know full well is a story nobody believes, but in the season we came bottom of the fourth divisions. That's what, 1991.
Yeah.
We draw Everton in the second round of the League Cup. We were magnificent. This is a poor Wrexham team. Obviously, finished bottom of the fourth division. But we had a young Chris Armstrong who was just about to leave, and we made so many chances. It was astonishing. But unfortunately, they had Neville Southall in goal, and he saved everything, just everything. And it was and let's be honest, difference between teams at the top end and the bottom end is quality of finishing. So probably those chances weren't struck as well as a top level striker would. But Southall just made save after save after save, and it felt like every time Everton went forwards, they scored, and we lost 5-0. We lost the second leg at Goodison 6-0, 11-0 on aggregate. We was robbed. I'm telling you.
Southall was a hell of a keeper, though, wasn't he?
Oh, God, yeah.
The game that comes to mind that we were genuinely robbed in was the playoff quarter-final against Eastleigh. What was that, 2018, 2019? My years sort of having a bit of a fuzzy memory of what year that was exactly, where we battered them for most of the game. We had a goal wrongly disallowed, and then they went and nicked it in extra time, didn't they?
Yeah, they had, was it I think it was a volley from outside the area, wasn't it? It got
Yeah, it was
headed.
absolute screamer, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
I
was
remember that
great.
well because I wasn't there. I was
Oh,
ahead of year, and it was the leaving ceremony in school of my year group. On the night of that match, I was absolutely gutted. I got up to make the speech at the start, and I waved what was supposed to be a ticket to the match, saying, "Thanks all of you for stopping me watching this big game."
mhm.
Kept coming back to it throughout. And to be honest with you, driving home listening to the Wrexham player commentary after the ceremony had finished, I was thinking, God, I'm glad I wasn't there. I
Yeah.
really was glad.
I hadn't been a lot that season for whatever reason. I can't even remember. It was like one of the first years for a while I hadn't had a season ticket because of money or whatever, and I couldn't find anyone to go with me because we'd gone on an incredibly bad run of form. We looked like we could have won the league that year, didn't we? And then Keats went, and it just all sort of spiraled. Nobody would come with me, so I dragged myself by myself, which I never do. Never go to the games by myself. And then when that ball just sailed in, I was like, yeah, that's why I came by myself, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's a fantastic
That was,
goal, wasn't it?
yeah.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, that was the season. I was going to say it was the season before takeoff, but it was a takeover, but it was before that, wasn't it? Because there was another season in between.
Yeah, which thankfully ended through COVID because it was insufferable.
Yes,
I'm not
yeah.
saying that was a good thing, but just it was nice to not have that season conclude because we was really struggling. Although I thought Keats did a good job of rescuing what looked like a sinking ship. Anyway, we've cheered
Yes.
ourselves up so
No.
much. I feel much better now. Eh? I'll tell you what will make us feel really good. We'll have a break and then we'll talk about a fantastic win for Wrexham that took place at the same time as the Harrogate match. All right, so let's look at the positive side of things. Wrexham's women needed a win on Sunday, and unlike the game before, when we needed a win, but the opposition wasn't very strong, we were playing the only unbeaten team in the league. And of course, what's the typical old Wrexham thing to do? Dominate games and not score, and then come up against a side that's flying and put in a brilliant performance. I think it's fair to say that's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it was brilliant. Beat them 3-0, 2-0 up early on. Frank, what, 2-0 up after about quarter of an hour? It could have easily been 5-0. And this time it wasn't the missing chances, which has been the problem for the women's team. It was just, yeah, we were just tearing into them, having good effort after good effort, and the dam broke. It ended up 3-0. And when you think, I mean, Britain Ferry battered us at their place and started like a steam engine. And we couldn't get out of our defensive third. They were pressing so hard, we couldn't pass out. We want to pass the ball out. Well, this time you think, oh, they're going to do that to us again. Didn't cross the halfway line for about 20 minutes. It was just beautiful. I tell you, it was I was really sad I missed that game. And when I saw that it was panning out, and then how the Harrogate game was panning out, I promise you, I was even more sad that I'd missed it. It was a fantastic achievement, and it's just opened the season up a bit. We're still sixth, but we're 2 points off the top half now, and with big teams dropping points all over the shop. We just won three in a row. We got two cup ties now against lower division sides. Momentum's a powerful thing. If we can win those games, it can make a big change to your campaign, can't it?
Without any doubt, and it'd be good to see them push on from there.
It's
Do,
have
do you
you
think
seen?
they've
Oh, sorry,
do you
go on.
think they've turned the corner, Mark?
I do actually. Yeah, yeah. I hope so. Anyway, the three signings they brought in the summer, I think have taken a little bit of time to settle in for different reasons, and nothing sinister. Um, but they're clicking now. And I was thinking
Mm.
about this last night. Last season and the season before, even though, I mean, please don't get me wrong, we were doing amazingly well. There were times when our passing wasn't quite crisp enough, and luckily we defended well, and so we had to fall back on what you were talking about with the men's team before of having a strong defence to see us through when we weren't looking quite so fluent. Um, and since then, you think of the players we brought in, they're all technical passers of the ball. Brooke Cairns is a really good mobile midfielder. And then we brought in Liv Fuller, who is class, absolute class. And wasn't for a bad injury, she'd be playing at a higher level, but her passing is terrific, whether she's in defence or midfield. And then in the summer, okay, we bring in a goalkeeper who actually has excellent distribution, but also Nat Clark, who at the back or midfield again, similar player, really protects the ball, passes well progressively, and then the real eye-catching one in a way, Abby Iddenden, who plays up front with Rosie Hughes. Oh, she's tremendous. Back to goal. They can't deal with her. She just pins a defender and then she holds on to it. Her weight of pass is great. Her timing of pass is great. And she's got lots of little turns and maneuvers and tricks to just turn the defender anyway. And I think, yeah, I think it's come together and gelled. We were always playing quite well and making a lot of chances, but okay, maybe winning 11-0 doesn't hurt your confidence too much. And then the Cardiff Met game was, okay, I think they're going to finish bottom of the league, to be honest. We beat them 3-0. And my only concern, there should have been more because we were so fluid the way we moved it around. And we just played an unbeaten team. Britain Ferry, they were winning 2-0 at Cardiff and drew at Cardiff. But they came to ours and they were never in the game. I promise you. We absolutely overwhelmed them. So I hope so. And I think they have. They're a good team to watch. I'm delighted, to be honest.
Mm.
I think it's just important to get in that top four, isn't it, for the
Yeah.
second half of the season, and then you sort of you deal with what comes after that, then don't you?
Yeah, exactly right. Because if you get in the top four, it's not going to be like last season, where essentially Cardiff pretty much had it won by the break, and only Swansea had any chance of catching them. Swansea and Cardiff have dropped surprising points. They certainly don't look as strong as they were last season. We lost to both of them, but frankly, we could easily have won both those games. So yeah, if we can get into it, we'll be ironically, despite our poor start, we'll be closer to the top of the table possibly. And I think going into games against them, not thinking, okay, we've got to find a clever way to outmaneuver them, just thinking we just need to go at them and hurt them.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting. I'm not saying we're going to win the league. Cardiff do have a decent gap still, but if we can get in that top half, there's going to be quite a bit to play for, I think. It's exciting. Did either of you see Lily Jones's goal?
No, I didn't, unfortunately. I haven't caught
No,
up yet.
Bill.
I've heard it's a screamer,
It's
but
a beauty.
I'm gonna see if I can try and find it now.
Well,
It
Lily's
was go on,
go on.
sorry.
It's retweeted on my Twitter timeline. If you want a quick way to find it now, Bill. Um, Lily is such a talented player, and she's still, she's only just left sixth form last summer. She's so good across the whole pitch. She can do anything. But this great goal, which she scores
Oh
from
yeah,
40
that's
yards.
that's that's fantastic. What's really good about that is the vision that she's had.
Yeah.
There's no mistake there. She knows exactly what she's doing and put it in the exact right spot. So yeah, fair play.
The beauty of it as well is that it's not the first she scored like that. She's doing it at the racecourse last season, and she had Leicester Waymat then. It's a hell of a goal, but she's brilliant. And I think against Cardiff Met, and this is saying something because she's such a good player. I think it was the best I've ever seen him play against against Cardiff Met. I think sometimes there's a question: where do you put a player who's got all the attributes? Do you stick her at the back? She's a great centre back. She's strong. She brings the ball out well. She passes it really well from deep. Do you put her holding midfield for the same reasons, or do you put her higher up? And I think actually it's higher up where she really dominates games. And against Cardiff Met a week ago, dear God, she was phenomenal. Just bossed the game from start to finish. And she's got a hell of an engine as well, so she can do that from start to finish. So yeah, there's my speech in praise of Lily Jones. Should we go on to another great Wrexham player? You've got happy memories of a certain Rooster, of course, Kevin Russell. What a player he was. So caught up with him to chat about his maybe slightly neglected first session with Wrexham. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for joining us. You're significant for me because you're the first player I ever had as a co-commentator with me. So it's brilliant to speak to you again. And,
yeah, it's been a while, mate. It's been a while, I must admit. But
yeah.
as you say.
But I was hoping you could go back and have a look at your first spell with Wrexham. So you came in with Dixie McNeil, although you already had an experience at the racecourse with Portsmouth in the League Cup. A game which, if I remember correctly, ended up in some sort of altercation in a tunnel with Wrexham players getting sent off. But it was Dixie who tempted you to actually come across to us, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, it was funny because obviously Barry went the other way. So it was, to be fair, that season I was only a kid. Like I was 19, I think it was. I played a few games in the first team that year and got promoted to the first division. Which obviously is the Premier League now. I played about 9 games, I think. And then Dixie obviously come in for me, and Barry was going the other way. Now, Alan Ball spoke to me and said, listen, I think it'd be a good opportunity for you. He said, you'll be limited with your game time here. I know it's going back down the leagues, but it's a chance to get regular first team football and to establish yourself somewhere. So come up, long journey from Portsmouth, spoke to Dixie and obviously looked at the size of the club and the potential of the club. Even at the time, it was going through, it was rough times at that time, financially, but it was something Dixon talked me into it. And to be fair, I really enjoyed my time. It was a great experience for me.
And he brought in, as well as you, quite a few good players that summer as well, which is quite exciting from Wrexham's point of view. I mean, Mike Salmon signed permanently for us. Then players like Joe Hinnigan, Mike Carter, the John Bowden, Jeff Hunter, Joey came back as well.
Joey come back, yeah.
Must have been brilliant for you to have all these experienced players of a strong changing room to come into.
Yeah, obviously, I know coming up as a young kid, obviously I played against Joey a couple of times actually in the reserves when he was at Chelsea. So I knew of Joey, but I didn't really obviously know him until I come into the building. But there's a lot of old experienced players, which was great for me, obviously being a kid. But as I say, Dixie was brilliant for me personally. I come to Wrexham, I was really, I'd always been a midfield player or a winger. And then Dixie converted me into a centre forward and really taught me the art and if you like the professional skills of playing as a centre forward. So it was great for me.
But it didn't start well because famously for Wrexham fans, we got all excited about all the new players we've got, and then the first game we go down to Torquay, take the lead with Mick Carter. And it goes rather pear-shaped. We end up losing 6-1. That was a bit of a shock for us. Was it for you?
Yeah, it was, to be fair. And obviously, it was absolute baptism of fire for me, I'll be honest. I was a bit wet behind the ears. I'd play regular reserve team football. And then, obviously, first team football like that, long journey. It was so it was all a new experience for me. And then, to be fair, we didn't start the season very well. I'll be honest. We had the result at Torquay, and I found it a little while to get my feet really. Played Burnley in the League Cup as well, first round, it was great experience, and slowly managed to find my feet. But as you say, we had some good experienced players in the team at the time, especially with Joey. That experience was invalid, really.
Absolutely. You're very modest. You scored on your home debut against Burnley. We beat them 1-0. But also, like I said, at the start of the season seemed, like you said, it was a bit stop and start. You scored a cracking goal against Cardiff, which we're always grateful for. And in that team was Jim Harvey, who'd come on loan. But that sort of illustrates, like you said, the financial problems still weren't gone, because Wrexham were desperate to sign Jim Harvey. Dixie, in his programme notes, was saying publicly, I want to sign him. And we just couldn't get that deal over the line. And that hurt us a bit after we started to pick up to lose a player of his quality.
Yeah, like Jim come in again, another really experienced player. It was great for me, to have these people in around you, who knew the lower leagues and knew the game inside out. So it was difficult. I can remember I got injured as well. First couple of months, I never really had an injury, and we played Orient, and I did medial ligaments in my knee, which kept me out for about 4 or 5 weeks, which was frustrating. And then obviously when I come back after the injury, that kind of turned for me then, and I hit the ground running.
Well, you certainly did. I was looking back just before we spoke, and you scored a few goals before the injury, and afterwards you're absolutely flying. You score as well in one of the most fantastically memorable games for Wrexham, when we win at Wolves 2-0.
Yeah. Well, Wolves were obviously at the time massive club, going for promotion in that league. Steve Ball and Andy Much were obviously playing up front. It was a tough league. There's some good teams in there. People forget that. So that year, it was memorable to score against them and play against them as well. And then, as you say, you get a few goals, starts breeding confidence, and from then on, I just felt like every time I stepped on the pitch, I was going to score. I got that confidence about me. And as I say, I was still learning the game really, but I had some good shooters around me. Obviously, Jim Steele was there. Obviously with Dixie, so it was great for me really.
Because we haven't got much money, Jim leaves. We can't afford to keep hold of him. Ollie Cairns comes in, and you seem to work up a good relationship with him.
Yeah, Ollie again, an experienced old player. Big lad. He's a good target man, and I was able just to feed off the scraps in and around him. And we had some good footballers in midfield. Obviously, Brian come in. Jeff Hunter. God bless him. He's obviously passed away now, but he great experienced player, good footballer, as you say. John Bowden. We'd been around the lower leagues, and then as you say, we got some impetus going and started to creep up the table.
Brian Flynn must have been fun to play in front of. All those players, but I mean, I'm thinking of Flynn particularly, a player with your movement. When you get a midfielder,
Brian, yeah,
spot those runs.
Brian,
that must be perfect.
Brian was, to be fair, he's one of those players. When you played with him, you didn't realise how small he was, and to be able to be as good as he was, and how small he was, he was some footballer. Obviously, I played with him at the end of his career, so. When he was at his peak, he must have been, he was so intelligent, such a good footballer, such a good passer of the ball, and he was great for me again, those days with, as you say, Joey in the team, Brian in the team, obviously Dixie's manager, it was brilliant for my learning curve.
And I've got to say, this is another of my personal favourite memories, because I was on the cop watching this happen. You scored the most fantastic hat-trick against Exeter, where my recollection of it is the first one's a penalty, and unsavable penalty, but then the other two were sort of mirror images of themselves, where you get sent away down the channel and you get around the keeper and score from a tight angle. But what really stuck in my head and made it special for me was that one was right foot on the right channel and the other one was left footed, and I'm standing there thinking, if you can do that with both feet, this guy can play.
Yeah, well, coming through as a quick kid at Portsmouth, as I said, I was always a winger, so I played right wing and left wing. And I was always very comfortable both feet, always. I played a lot of my football on as you say, on either in left midfield, left wing. So, I was quite comfortable to be two-footed. So it was a great advantage for me.
But it's great memories for for me as well. I can promise you. And we it was weird because we actually managed to make a sort of late charge towards the playoffs. We didn't quite make it, but it was but you felt maybe we had the foundations or something that we could build on. With that late finish showed we had something in the squad, I think.
Yeah, 100%. As you say, winning breeds confidence. We started getting confidence, started winning games. As I said, we had some good players. Dixie, on the budget he had, he did a brilliant job in the players that he acquired. And there was a good balance of, if you like, experience and young lads. Obviously Roger Priest was there as well. Darren Wright. So we had a few young lads as well to blend in. So Neil Slaffield was there. He was a little bit older. So it was a good blend, if you like.
Absolutely. And I mean, it must have been sort of interesting working under Dixie. What was he like as a manager? I remember I've spoken to Steve Massey a couple of years ago, and he was saying he was quite shocked that Dixie would actually do video analysis. He'd somehow get videos of the games and look back at them. But he must have, it sounds from way you're speaking like he was a really good manager for you.
Yeah, it was brilliant for me. He was tough. He was tough. He didn't hold any prisoners. When he was upset, he was upset. And I can remember some of the training days we used to do on a Tuesday. Probably the hardest things I've ever done. I'll be honest. Even to all the way through my career. Taking us up to Llangollen and run us up the hills, and up to Crow's Castle and stuff like that. So he was tough. But as I said before, for me, as a centre forward or as a winger, if you like, being turned into a centre forward, his experience and his nurturing was invaluable for me. I'll be honest. Just teaching you little different things and the dark arts of the game, if you like. But he was tough, but he was also a really good guy. Really good guy.
And we got to the Welsh Cup final that year. Do I recall? I remember Brian Flynn scoring in the semi-final. I was a bit shocked by that, and you got the goal at the end that sent us through to the final at Kidderminster.
Yes, yeah. So, those days, even when I come back the second time, that the Welsh Cup was always a big competition. It was a way to get back into Europe, so it was a really big competition. And then, obviously, as it went on, the prize pot that you won was quite a lot. And especially, obviously, when I come back the second time, when you looked when Brian was manager, it gives us a real good source of income.
Yeah. Is that I may be wrong here, so I apologise for my memories playing tricks. But the final was Cardiff at Swansea.
At Swansea, yeah.
Was like the game that kicked off at 11:30, or was that like swelteringly hot?
Yeah, it was a night kickoff, or
right.
late, like a 6-7 o'clock, if I can remember. I can remember about it. Obviously, it was at Swansea, so obviously Cardiff had a massive following there. We took a few, but nowhere near like Cardiff did. I think Cardiff got promotion that year as well, if I remember rightly. They had a good team, them Bolton, they were up there around the top of the table, They had some good old Warrior characters as well, Cardiff, they were a strong team.
But so that summer we bring in some more interesting players, don't we? I mean, Graham Cooper, Nigel Beaumont, Andy Thackeray. You got some really strong changing room characters in there, haven't we?
Yeah, definitely. Like Andy was obviously around, same kind of age as me. Nigel was the same. Obviously, Graham was a bit older. He played at a decent level. So you could see the nucleus of the squad was changing, but it was getting stronger year by year. So that summer, obviously, we felt we ended the season so well the year before that we may have a chance of challenging the top end of the table.
And I mean, Graham Cooper, I was chatting to him a couple of weeks ago about this, actually. I mean, he has a sort of incredible start. To go down to Exeter, first game of the season, he scores an amazing goal after 3 minutes.
Yeah,
First home game against Lincoln, he scores a couple more. One of them again is an absolute worldie. You score in both those games as well, and
yeah,
we're really flying at this point, aren't we?
yeah. Like that's what just before I come in, the club was on a little bit of a downward spiral, if I'll be honest. And it was that kind of period where football and unemployment and everything that side of it, the club was in the doldrums really. So that kind of ignited us, and got us going. You could see the club had a big following. You just needed to get it going, and we were able to just like slowly light it again and just ignite it in the right way.
Yeah, and you certainly do. I mean, it's quite a while till we lose a game. We maybe draw too many games in that opening third of the season, but nonetheless,
Yeah,
we're really going for it.
yeah. It was as you say, we're really hard to beat. I'll be honest. We had some good characters in the team. We had a real good bond between the lads. I'll be honest. Good team spirit, and it was we got things going. It was our place to get a result. The racecourse, it become a real castle for us, if that makes sense. It was a hard game for teams to come to, hard place.
And around like November time, we start really getting in amongst the results, and you're scoring goals. I gotta say, and this is a bit of an odd one, but one of my favourite games I remember was we played Sheffield United in what Associate
Yeah,
Members Cup, whatever it was called then, and they
yeah,
were absolutely flying, top of the table. They were the proper Harry Bassett long ball team,
yeah.
and you score a sort of in a last minute winner against them to knock them out of that competition. And I just really sticks in my head. I remember feeling so proud that we could, take down a team like that.
Well, that's been, even to the today, it's always been a place, in cup competitions. Wrexham is a really hard place to get a result. It is, and even looking at it now, I was fortunate to go back there the other week. It's when the place is rocking, it's an intimidating stadium to play in, and the cup competitions, I was fortunate enough, to be in all those cup runs, some big cup runs, and when you get those runs in those cups, it's a really great place to play. To be fair, Wrexham is, it's an intimidating place for the opposition.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, I mean, you'll have seen just the sort of volume we're getting now in matches too. It's quite scary. Never quite known it like that, to be honest.
No, it's obviously obviously the new owners and
Yeah.
everything that's happening with the club is obviously brought that. I feel that they've been really clever where they've really jumped on the patriotism of the Welshing
Yeah.
really, really well. If you can remember, well, I remember when I was playing there, both stints, if you like. They always had a big following, but it was always a big area for Man United fans, Liverpool fans, Everton fans. When I go back there now, my grandkids are season ticket holders now. My sons are season ticket holder. It seems now as if they've really jumped on that Welsh patriotism for me. They've done so well in that, and that's brought, as you say, that's stopped, if you like, the Everton, the Liverpool, the Man United a little bit than it used to have.
Yeah. Well, we'll both be playing Everton in the league next year, I'm sure. So
Yeah.
Looking back at again at those, that season as well. I mean, you're banging in the goals as we're really hitting our stride as well. You got a couple against Darlington, you got a couple against who was it? I can't remember now. You got a hat trick against Burnley, and that's another thing. To wallop Burnley 4-2 at home, and we won 3-1 away that season. We're really
Yeah.
showing, we can take on big teams on big occasions. And like so you are
Yeah.
scoring a hat trick against Burnley, that must have been fantastic.
Yeah, it was it was brilliant. And then to beat them there, I think when we played them there, they were like strong at home, and we battered them. To be fair, we played really well. I can still remember it now. It was like a really rainy day. Joey absolutely smashed a couple of lads. To be fair, we had a good balance. As you say, the experienced lads and the younger lads. We had good energies about the team, but we also had a solid backbone. Yeah. So and then obviously later on in the career, I ended up going back. I ended up going to play for Burnley. So, you know, I know it's like. It's a obviously tough stadium to play in as well. You know, it's big following. So, but we, you know, at that about around that time, then you know, we would have took anyone on. Then, you know, we were quite confident. You know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, with such goal power in our team, you know, we ought to be, oughtn't we? Really. Um,
Yeah.
we sort of have a little bit of a wobble near the end of the season, which sort of puts paid to us going for direct promotion.
Yeah.
But then we finished the season really, really well. 3 wins in the league: Carlisle, Torquay, Rochdale, and we're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And that first playoff match against Scunthorpe in the semi-finals,
Yeah.
we get off to a flyer, and then you take control of the away game, don't you? And it ends up
Yeah.
being a heavy win
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it was a tough. You know, Scunthorpe as well. We're a good team, then. You know, they had some good players, but we managed to get through that game. I thought in the end we won quite convincingly. You know, because they you know, they were a tough team. You know, I think we drew with them both games in the league. If I think, so that was a tough place to go and play, but we managed to, you know, to beat them comfortably, really, in the playoffs, and then set up the game with Ferrari. You know, who again were a tough team. There's some good players already at the time. You know.
I'm just looking back, Scunthorpe, we lost at theirs 3-1 in the league, but then we beat them
Yeah.
2-0.
Oh, okay.
Joey scored a suspicious amount of goals in that season. I don't know what
Yeah.
the heck was going on there. And you scored a penalty as well when we
Yeah.
beat them at Wrexham. But then it was 3-1, it was their first leg, and then, yeah, and all the scoring's done in the first half hour. And
Yeah.
then you scored 2 in Scunthorpe in the second leg. We won 2-0.
Yeah.
If you fancy some nostalgia, by the way, if you look back on Wrexham's YouTube channel, I put the full 90 of both that and the win at Burnley up on our YouTube channel. So if you fancy having a look
Yeah.
back,
Okay.
you
Brilliant.
know, you can. That Orient game annoys me enormously.
Yeah.
I mean, the first leg, because there's no Wembley finals then, sadly.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it was the first playoffs, wasn't it? I'm sure it was.
yeah, yeah.
I think it
And I think
was.
it's the next season it starts going to Wembley. So we
Yeah,
have
it does. Yeah.
Yeah. So Wrexham have to
Um,
wait another like 24 years to actually get to Wembley.
yeah. It was I felt both games were disappointing. They're
Mm.
quite flat games. I think they're both really even games. Really, there was nothing in there between both teams. The game at home, we never really got going. I didn't think. You know, it was. I can remember it was a really hot day or
Yeah.
hot night. We played at night. It was really hot. The pitch was rock hard. I remember that. None of these water in the pitches then, mate. It was like you know, it was like playing on concrete. You know. And then the second game, I just didn't think we got going. To be fair, it was a disappointing game. Obviously, we ended up losing the game, but great times. You know, it was to you know, as a young lad, obviously, I got promoted with Portsmouth into the first division. I played 9 games, which was obviously, you know, for a young boy, it was quite a lot at that time. You know, and then to go to Wrexham, then to get to the playoffs as well. You know, it was great to have those kind of experiences of my CV at such an early age, you know.
Gosh, yeah, absolutely. The first game at Orient, I think Wrexham fans mostly remember that Neil Slaffery had a good headed chance that he missed. But to be fair to Neil, you know, he scored 3 goals in his career, so I don't think we should
Yeah,
be too harsh on him for that.
no, no, he's a good lad. So he was,
Yeah.
you know, proper Wrexham lad, heart of gold. You know, tough boy, loved to tackle. Typical. You know, if you like a Wrexham lad.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a good player. Good player.
He told me a great story a few years ago about how a Doncaster fan, when you played at Doncaster, was shouting abuse to him through the game. And he said, "I'll see you after the match." And he ran down the tunnel in his kit and tried to find the lad in the car park. But he'd
Sounds
scarred
like
him
so.
sensibly.
Yeah, that sounds like him.
The second leg, I got to be honest, annoys me because Alan Comfort, one of their
Yeah,
best players, he wrote an autobiography, and he said that, well, he was supposed to be getting married that afternoon, and essentially he says, not me, Orient played on the fact that Hillsborough had happened that year to say, oh, we're worried about the amount of fans, you need to play it earlier, which obviously hurt us because a lot
yeah,
less Wrexham fans could go than maybe they would do otherwise. and it was all to get him on a helicopter to get him to his marriage on time, which
No, I know. We
we
got our
did
comeuppance.
that.
So, when I was coaching with Dennis, we got the comeuppance like a few years later.
Yeah.
Because obviously we got promoted at Orient. So,
Yeah,
so what goes around comes around.
that's very true. Yeah, and of course, uh, you've scored over 50 goals over 2 seasons, and naturally teams in the higher divisions are looking at you. And nobody at Wrexham had, sometimes players leave and fans can be upset, but nobody at Wrexham felt that when you went to Leicester, because goodness me, you'd earned that move. It was to been, it must have been tough in a way to leave, but a great progression for you.
Yeah, it was. It was a chance to work with David Pleat, who was obviously regarded as one of the best managers around at that time. So it was a great learning curve for me, to be fair. I really enjoyed my time at Leicester. It was a really good club, big club. I had a great time there. I was fortunate enough to do well there as well. I think, throughout my career, as I can say now, I've got, obviously Wrexham's got a big part in my heart. Obviously, my kids, grew up there. I've lived there for a long time. Obviously, my grandkids still go back there now. And obviously to have gone through all the trauma with the club, with Gotham and everything else, and all that, and with Dennis, being able to coach there as well as play there. Obviously played there for a long time, with my second stint as well. It's a place that I hold very dearly. And it's great to see him doing so well now.
Excellent. Oh, that's lovely to hear. Can I just say one last thing, as I meant to say earlier? For me, you were the fastest player I felt I'd seen with the ball at your feet.
I've had that a few times, to be fair.
Yeah.
A few players I've played with over the years, my time at Stoke and Leicester and obviously at Wrexham, a few players have said that to me. But then again, I suppose, I was a winger always as a kid. So, I was able to have a good turn of pace with the ball. As you're saying, you go away and you go to different clubs, and hopefully you become a better player as you get older. You learn the game more, and you understand different positions more. I think apart from the back four, I think I've played every single position there is on the pitch for Wrexham. From left wing, right wing, centre forward, centre midfield, right midfield, left midfield. So I was lucky enough to play with some good people who were good nurturers and helped me along in all different ways of knowledge of the game, really. So, I was very fortunate. And Joey, he's one of the most humblest and greatest man in and out of football I've ever met. He was brilliant for me. He was a great teacher. Great teacher.
Yeah. Oh, we all cherish Joey, and we really do. Goodness me. The other thing I was just going to mention to you was that a lot of your goals tended to be your pace would get you one-on-one with a keeper. And I always used to think that you were very smart in that you realized that fourth division keepers wouldn't stand up for a long time. They'd eventually start to go one or the other. And as my recollections, an awful lot of your finishes are you go one-on-one and then you can just go for power, hit the top half of the net, and the keeper's cracked by then and is starting to anticipate. That was the way I sort of imagined it. I was wrong, was I?
Well, no, to be fair, one of the things I learned with Dixie, obviously he's been, obviously as a striker, was obviously the goal never moves. So that was one of his things. So, the goal never moves. As long as you hit the target, obviously, go around him, go around his legs, go high, around his arms. So that was one of the things I learned from Dixie. As you say, once I ended up playing up front. The biggest thing, it's interesting because obviously when our football, when you play for different teams, different managers want you to play. When I was at Wrexham, obviously Dixie wanted me to play on the shoulder. So I was always on through balls. So I was always going in beyond. Then obviously I go to Leicester and I was playing with the likes of Gary McAllister and people like that who were like top footballers. Yeah. So I was setting off on the way over the top and they're like, where are you going? Come on, come into feet, link up, So at times it all depends who you're playing with and what sort of team you've got around you. But then again, that's football. Playing with different people and learning off different managers and different suitors, if you like.
Absolutely. And you always had the game smart to adapt, and that's been something that's been so obvious to us throughout your time with Wrexham, both spells. We'll leave it there if it's all right, Kevin, because I sort of wanted to, get a chance to chat to you in detail about that first spell, which I think people don't talk about as much.
Yeah.
But can I just say that was an absolute privilege and a pleasure. Thank you so much, Kevin, for that.
No problem.
And I like that. The goals never move. I'm going to get a T-shirt with that on it, I reckon. I like it.
Okay. Brilliant, Mark. Good to speak to you.
Rooster. Such happy memories, eh? What a man. Right. Time to go, I think.
Indeed.
I'll look forward to Mansfield, do we?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah.
Always looking forward to it. The game last year was a fantastic match, so hopefully we get the same again.
Yeah, we had 3 very tough, tight matches against them, and we got two wins and a draw out of them, didn't we? So knocked them out of the cup as well. Did I say 2? We had 3, and we knocked them out of the cup at their place. So let's hope we can keep that up. A good team, not that far behind us, but we're not bad at home, are we?
Oh, it'd be good to get a win, wouldn't it? And put Harrogate behind us.
Exactly. So it's been a pleasure chatting to you guys.
Yeah.
We should do it again next week.
Yes, we will.
Yeah,
Excellent.
why not?
Goodbye, everybody. This was Final Whistle Weekly.